Okay, it wasn't my fault. It was Eric. He's got his meta glasses on, and he can hear everything through the meta glasses. Hilarious. I don't know who's smarter, the Fern or I don't get it. Anyway, so today we learned a lot about some prospects here at the NFL Combine. Got a chance to ask a lot of questions. More importantly, the question is, the formal, the informal meetings with the players and the Detroit Lions, and in talking with like Justin Rogers or Jeremy Reisman or Colton Pouncey or whomever we spoke with today, just trying to learn a little bit more about what they're doing, their process. Everyone has a different feel for how important the meetings are and whether they're informal or formal, whether that even really matters. And as I explained, going through this process, on the outside looking in, as an outsider, true outsider, until this week, being on the inside, I rely on a lot of the things that we learn from the meetings, right? And like I told you guys last night, you don't want to, get married to these prospects early just because it says the Lions met with them. There could be many different reasons as to why. You could have questions, right? And more questions than answers. They might like the player, or it's smokescreen season. Legit. They could be trying to throw every other team off the trail. They might meet with 32 edges in this combine period over the next, couple of days. They can meet with 45 players formally. They can meet with all of them informally. And they might meet with every single edge in the class just to throw everybody off, and they don't even bring in an edge during the draft. Or, if something happens during the draft and players are shifting and moving around, you have to do your due diligence, right? You have to have an understanding of who these players are. And today what we learned is that the Detroit Lions are doing their homework on corners and safeties. The very early part of the morning, it kicked off at 9 o'clock today. We were down there about 8, and right away, at like I said, at 9 o'clock, we started interviewing some of the DBs. They came in rounds at the podiums. There's about 8-10 podiums set up, and we were kind of manning everywhere. The biggest breaking news of the day happened with Emanuel Pregnon, and as you guys remember, I spoke about that last night. How Emanuel Pregnon is high on my list. Let me bring up the Detroit Football Journal Top 50. Let's see where I have him on there. And I remember, when I spoke last night about it, that Emanuel Pregnon would be a great option for the Lions if Tate Ratledge does move to center. And just so happened today that Emanuel Pregnon is announced that he met with the Lions on an official visit last night. So that does tell us that they're doing their homework on these guys for many reasons, but the Lions are trying to stay fluid. I think, with as many holes that the Lions have on this roster this season, there's so many different positions of need everywhere on this team. And if Brad really does go BPA, which I don't really believe he does all the time, then that tells you that the Lions are trying to stay fluid for multiple reasons at multiple positions because they just don't know what's going to happen. They don't know what's going to happen with the draft. They don't know who's going to be available. But guys like Emanuel Pregnon made a rocks lock yesterday when I shared that with you a couple of days ago. He made my first to watch for the Lions. And it just so happened that he met with the Lions last night. I didn't know anything before last night. We learned it today. And matter of fact, Eric, why don't you tell us what happened today as to how we learned about Emanuel Pregnon?
Well, that's a pretty awesome story. So for the very first time ever, an insider came up to me while I was standing with all the other media and said, "Hey, do you know any Detroit Lions writers? I have an inside scoop I need to give to someone." And I turned around and there was a whole bunch of Detroit Lions writers standing right next to me. And Colton Pouncey was the first one. I said, Colton Pouncey's right here. He writes for the Detroit Lions. He's a beat writer. So she pulls him aside and she gave him the scoop that Emanuel had met with the Lions last night on an official visit. And I asked Colton about it, and he told me who the player was, and he's like, "Yeah, you can let people know. That's fine." And it was pretty cool. That's the first time I've ever had a insider give me some information before the general public knew about it. So that was very awesome to be in the room with the right people.
At the right time.
At the right time.
At the
and
right time.
I just happened to be standing in a room full of people. I mean, 1,000 people in this room. And this lady just walks up to me. And I don't know who she was. She was very well dressed. An insider for the Detroit Lions.
So that's what this is all about. You got to be in the right place at the right time. And there's, some parity with learning about this. Obviously, Emanuel Pregnon is being targeted for a reason, by the Detroit Lions, and I do believe that he's going to fill in at the right guard spot. He can also play tackle at some point, right? Or if needed. But I think that he's going to slide in at that right guard spot if the Lions do in fact decide to move Tate Rowledge to center, which we're not going to count all of our chickens before the eggs hatch, right? I think that there's a lot more work that needs to go on between now and the draft. There's a lot to be said. But let me just kind of go through my Twitter today with some of the updates. Lions met with DB. It should have said Mansour Delane, fat fingers, typing fast. Said that he met with Coach Shep. Great meeting. Talked a lot of ball. Broke down film. And if you happen to follow me on Twitter at Will Rock Jr., I posted the video of the conversation that I had with him today. Just a couple of questions. And I think that when you think about, well, why would the Lions be looking at a corner that is supposed to go in the top 10 or top 12 or top 13, whatever? I think the answer is, what if the Lions decide to move up? And I'm going to ask all of you to pay attention to that. Now, I just told you a minute ago, don't worry about the people they meet with, right? Don't worry about the players that they meet with. But that start to take a look at and take a mental note of where these players are slotted. And the reason why I say that is, PFF may say, well, they're a top 6, or I don't know, name any other analytics site. They may say he's a top 10 or he's going to go in the inside the top 5. What if he doesn't go to 20? Or what if he doesn't go to 17? What if players end up jumping him because he has a bad combine? So there's a lot of things that can happen as to why Mansour Delane could slip in this draft if he doesn't test well. That could be the biggest reason. One of the other guys that I had a quick, brief conversation with, Dylan Thieneman, safety out of Oregon. He has not met with the Lions yet. Doesn't mean that the Lions are not going to meet with him yet, but it does sound like he's been given a grade of 1 or 2. And so the reason why he came out and entered the draft is because he was expected to go rounds 1 or 2. So if the Lions do end up meeting with him, I would say that probably fits more of a second-round draft pick. If the Lions have an opportunity, it would be closer, to round 2 than it would be in round 1. I don't see Dylan Thieneman going to the Lions in round 1, but they still have to meet. And you know what? Sometimes they select players that they don't meet. It's rare, but they do. Michael Taff, someone that a lot of us have talked about when a lot of people have selected in their mock drafts. This kid, you can tell he's humble. He's smart. He's a likable dude. And I think he's got all the right things going for him. When you think about, players that are good locker room guys, guys that you can trust, guys that are going to come in and work hard. Michael Taft to me is one of those guys. But he said that he had a great conversation with the Lions, and he also said that the question I asked was, what is the thing that you think you need to improve upon the most, at the next level? And he said that he played hero ball, and it got him in trouble. And he was trying to do too much, and he needs to focus on doing what he needs to do instead of trying to do too much. Which brings me to another point, Eric. I don't know if you heard about this or saw it, but Will Birchfield had set up with Calvin Shepard today, and was asked about Terrion Arnold. Did you happen to see that yet? Because
I did a little bit.
Yeah. So the Terrion Arnold thing, and this is interesting. And I think this is why a lot of the DBs and the safeties are getting looked at by the Lions. 1, we need a safety, but 2, they might be targeting a corner. And I've thought that that would be part of their plan this year. And as we get closer to the draft, we'll kind of figure out where that goes. But basically said that Terrion Arnold needs to shut the hell up, right?
Yeah.
He just needs to be
talking about being great
and go be
start
great.
Being great,
right?
Yeah.
And I found that interesting that he does like to talk a little bit. I'm wondering if Terrion Arnold is talking too much and if the podcast is too big of a problem for him. But I do notice that he does like to talk. He does like to chirp.
Yep.
He has to produce. Anything else you want to add to that?
No. Terrion, I mean, he's back to working out again. Mm-hmm. And we saw that. But we haven't seen any of him chirping about anything yet. Just that he's working out. So I would really like to see a really big year 3 out of him. And I see us going after a corner, at least in this draft, because you don't know what's going to happen with Ennis Rakestraw. Ennis Rakestraw is a total unknown for our Detroit Lions right now. In year 1, he looked like he was going to be the starter week 1 versus the Bucks, and he got hurt in pregame warmups. And then you go to year 2, we get to preseason, we're at training camp, and he lands super hard on his shoulder and breaks his shoulder and has to have surgery. So we do not know what he is. He is a total unknown in the NFL. He's played like 2 or 3 games. So we need to see what's coming out of Ennis Rakestraw. But until then, you need another corner. Because
it's not only that we just need another corner, but I mean, you could be losing Amik Robertson.
That's exactly right.
You're down Brian Branch and Kirby Joseph to start the season, most likely. And well, who knows on Kirby, but at least Brian, is expected to come back by October at the latest.
And that's why today I focused on picking one corner and one safety that I really liked that I'm going to keep my eye on for the rest of this combine. And it may change depending on what these guys do in the drills tomorrow, because these guys will be tomorrow. I'm pretty sure, because today is edge and linebackers.
Yeah, today's D line, or I thought there's DTs today too. But anyway,
yeah.
Answer the question in the chat. Trace asked, "What round would Pregnon go in?" So I have him mocked right now, early second. Could sneak into the first, and I've kind of seen that floating around a little bit, that's where he's been mocked. I kind of have him in the same position. I can't imagine that the Lions would take him at 17. I think it would be way too early. And Trace, to be totally honest with you, I think that if the Lions were considering the move with Tate Ratledge and free agency doesn't work out for him, with center or with I guess just having to move Tate over, I think that then you're looking at the Lions trading back and moving back from 17 to add some more draft picks so that they can bring in some higher quality players out of this draft, because that's where you're going to get that edge or the corner, as you say, second, third round. If you get a couple of second and third round picks in this draft, you're going to come away with quality depth. And the one thing that I don't want to hear, which I know we're going to hear because there's some people out there that just run their mouth or run their fingers and really don't know football, I guess. They'll say that Brad Holmes reached, or they'll say that Brad Holmes brought in a project. Well, guess what? Everybody, including the first round pick, is a project in the NFL because they have never played in the NFL. And you look at Cam Ward, the number 1 overall pick last year. He was a hell of a project this year. He sucked. So not every player that you take in the first round or the second round or whatever is going to be a player that is just going to come in and flourish day one. It may take him a season. It may take him 2 seasons. And quite honestly, Eric, with the position itself, with offensive line, it is extremely rare that an offensive lineman comes in and just sets the ground ablaze and plays amazingly well. That is so rare. Same thing for corners, same thing for safeties. Quite honestly, it's the same thing for just about any position. You might have some linebackers and some defensive tackles and some edge players that play pretty well. Those positions, I think, have a lower bar of entry, but for some of these other skilled positions, I think that they can also play pretty well. Wide receivers, running backs, but guys that are living in the trenches and living in the back end of the secondary, they take some time, and that's just what it's all about, man. Every single one of these players has a trajectory. So, get my Twitter back open. There's a couple more guys in here. One of the guys that I'm going to ask you guys to put all your eyes on too is Malik Muhammad. Now, he has not met with the Lions yet. He might be one of the smartest players, like I said on my Twitter, that I heard today. Like, he knows ball. Like, this guy was talking about everything when it came to, positions and alignments and schemes. And you go and listen to his combine interview today, and I think that you will be incredibly impressed. 6 foot, 188 pounds, 195 pounds, somewhere in that range. We'll see where he weighs this week. He's noted for his speed, smooth hips, high football IQ, and the high football IQ was evident today. Excels in zone coverage. Considered a top prospect with a potential day 2 call. And again, that would fit that number 50 pick for the Detroit Lions. Again, they have not met with him yet, but that does not mean that he's not on the board. Eric, who's one of the players that you spoke with today that is kind of caught your eye?
Well, a safety from Iowa. And I got a pretty good video with him too. His name was Xavier Wampa. And he actually played with Caleb Proctor at one point. And they asked him about playing with Caleb Proctor. And I got a little bit of video about that. But this kid, listen, let me find him here. Right here. So his grades, he's got an 81.3 overall grade. He's 6'2", 213 pounds. He's a safety. He played at Iowa, so he played in the Big Ten. He's played against some good teams. He had 1 interception for 28 yards, 76 tackles, and 50 solo tackles last year. So this guy likes to come up in the box, get his hands dirty, and good against the run. So this kid, he's had an informal meeting with the Lions, and he talked really, really well. So I think this is the one that he had talked with the Lions. They asked him to put 2 plays. They put 2 plays on the board for him, and then they walked away. They talked for 5 minutes about something else, and then they said, "Hey, remember those 2 plays that we asked you in the beginning? Would you write those back on the board for us?" And he did. And then he said that he remembered. I can't remember the terminology he used, but he remembered the 2 plays. And he still remembers them. He's still got them memorized. So I thought that was pretty cool. And I asked him how he would be a fit since Kirby is having some issues with his knee, and Brian Branch is going to be down for a while. Are you ready to come in and fill in for the Detroit Lions? And he was all about jumping right in and being the guy.
There was a player that I spoke with today that I mentioned yesterday. Again, kind of keep your eyes on him, and that was Keith Abney, defensive back. And I really like Keith Abney. I think he's coming out of Arizona State University. Dude, scrappy is all get out. Let me pull up some information on Keith Abney. Has not met with the Lions. Again, that doesn't mean that he's not going to. The Lions are expected to meet with over 200 prospects here, at the draft or at the combine, excuse me. And not all of them will be mentioned. We won't know all of them, and there's no official list. And that was the one question that I went and asked Justin Rogers today too is, are you putting out a list for the formal informals? Are you putting out a tracker? And some people are putting out trackers, and what I notice is certain writers that are putting out trackers, they're not even there. They're not even there to figure out who's doing what, yet they're putting out trackers, and that's a bit interesting to me. I'm sure that they've got their inside scoop or stories or connections or whatever, but they're not even there getting information. But Keith Abney, 190 pounds, 6 foot, runs a 4.46-ish. Again, we'll find out today. His tape maybe shows a 3rd round corner with the tools to outperform his draft slot. His combination of processing speed and technical ability are pretty impressive. Loved his answers today. I thought that he was polished as a speaker. I thought that he knew what he was talking about, and he had probably the best answer I've heard all day. When I asked him, where does he project at the next level? What are you willing to do? And he just quite simply said, whatever coach wants me to do. And I just thought that was a perfect answer. Also had one guy that I spoke with today too, which was Latrell McCutcheon. He had an informal meeting with the Detroit Lions. He said that they were breaking down his game plan. And I asked him the same question. Where do you see your game at the next level? Are you inside? Are you outside? Are you up in the box? Like what's your specialty? And and he said, he'll do whatever he needs to do. Hell, I play center if they need me to play center. So this is a guy that already knows a little bit about the Lions, right? He knows that we need a center. And so for him to give me that answer tells me he's a little bit smarter than your average player. He's doing his homework on the teams just as much as the teams are doing homework on him. So what a great answer. One of the surprising ones of the day for me was Jermod McCoy. Said that he met with Calvin Shepard, said that they did a full install of a defense with him. He had to interpret it back to them. He said it was a good meeting. And I was a little bit worried about Jermod McCoy, as I mentioned, throughout this week and last week and the week before, that not playing a whole season, coming back from a major knee injury is concerning, right? You don't really know who that player is. And the Lions are in prime position to take him at 17, where he's kind of been slotted to go is in the high teens. I'm wondering if the Lions are thinking that this guy is going to slip pretty far down the pipe because of the fact that he hasn't played in over a year. And if that's the case, if the Lions could pick him up in the 3rd round, that might be one of the biggest steals in the draft if he comes in healthy and is able to play day one. Anybody else that you had your eyes on?
Yeah, so my corner that I was looking at, this guy was the best prepared of anyone I talked to the entire day. And he knew every DB on the Detroit Lions. He named them all by name, by position, and his name is Andre Fuller from Toledo. So yes, Toledo, cornerback university. He's got a 79.9 player rating. He is 6'2", 202 pounds, runs a 4.4 40. And he's got 1 interception, 10 passes defended, 49 tackles, 29 solo for the Toledo Rockets. And I'm telling you, this kid, vibrant, very well spoken, right up to the mic. He knew how to do a press conference. And I love it when the player you're talking to has confidence, right? So that's going to be something the Lions are looking for, is players with confidence. Because there was a few, I'm not going to name them, that when I would ask them a question, it was, yeah, okay. I can
little shy and bashful, yeah.
Yeah, yep. They just weren't projecting, and they weren't confident, right? The Lions want confidence. They're in a Super Bowl window. This is not a rebuild. This is a retool, and here we go. So Andre Fuller from Toledo, he's one that tomorrow when they're doing the drills, keep your eye on him, because I know the Lions are going to be keeping their eyes on him as well.
So some interesting day today. I think that, getting to meet a lot of these guys for the first time, stand next to them, talk with them, get to understand them on a very micro level. Just great group of kids. I hate saying the word kids. I feel old, 45 years old. These guys are all 20 years old, 21, 22.
I have kids older than them.
But it is what it is. My kids are the same age, and I mean, these guys are all gifted, and you can tell that they're all gifted. The shyness, the bashfulness that does come up with a couple of them, I kind of experienced that a little bit too today. And some of these guys are just not made for the mic. They're all about football. They're not about They're not like Terry and Arnold, who's really outspoken, right? Likes to run his mouth a little bit. I hope that Calvin Shepard is kind of, I'm going to use an old term that I learned back in the day, knock his dick in the dirt. It's time for him to get a hard lesson of it's time to work, man. It's time to shut the mouth, and it's time to work, because you're not going to go anywhere with your mouth. You're going to go a lot further by putting the work in every single day. So hopefully they get a good handle on that. But I do expect the Lions to be players this year in the DB room for sure. Anything else you want to add?
This group was really good. I have a few other players. I mean, all these guys had informal or formal meetings with the Lions. These are all players that I got to talk to, and there's so many. Seriously, there's so many that we got to talk to today. I literally took 12, 15 videos of each one answering whether they would be a fit for the Lions, if they've had an interview with the Lions, and how they see themselves playing in Detroit. So a few that I got to were F.A. Prysock, Jalon Gieblu, Damani Jackson. Now, Damani Jackson from Alabama, I think he would be a great fit with the Detroit Lions. This kid played at Alabama. I asked him if he got to play with any current Lions, and he said he hadn't, but he was very well spoken, and he did an absolute great interview. I just got to see what this kid can do on the field. And then there was Chandler Rivers, Turiano Pride, Devin Moore, and Marcus Allen. Marcus Allen was another one that had been coached at the East-West Shrine Bowl, and he told me it would be a dream come true to play for the Detroit Lions. Some other ones, Bud Clark, Bishop Fitzgerald, Ahmed Moses. Those were all guys that had informal visits with the Detroit Lions. So there's quite a few. I mean, the Detroit Lions, they are doing some serious work this year. They've had an informal meeting with basically every person that I have talked to so far. And 1, 2, 3, 4, and 4 of them had formal meetings with them.
So there's a rumor floating around that Sam Laporta may be traded.
What?
And I'm just gonna say it. I'm calling bullshit. Okay, people that aren't even in the building are speculating and throwing this stuff up and saying that Sam Laporta is potentially a player to kind of keep your eye on that could be traded by the Detroit Lions. That teams have their eyes on him or whatever. And I not one of us that I know of heard this today.
No, that would have been wildfire down there in the room with all the Detroit Lions media writers. It's serious. I was standing there talking with all of them.
Yeah, I don't see it. I don't see why.
I even got to meet Tim Twentyman today because he asked who Will was. Got to spend 5-10 minutes talking with him.
Yeah, that was kind of funny. So I threw on my wrong black jacket today, and I'm walking through media room, and I guess when he met Tim's like wondering who I was, thought I worked for the Lions because I had the official Lions gear on. It was kind of funny. So I went back and grabbed Tim, and I said, I don't work for the Lions, but if you got an opening, then just let me know. Just let me know. But anyway, it's good. Yeah, it's good to meet all these guys. It's good to see what they do. Like I said yesterday, I give them a lot of props, and I told them that again today that, it's fun to see what they do, and it's fun to interact with all the players. This is exactly why I wanted to get into this. One, to bring more information to you guys, to bring valid information to you guys. It's important that we get the right information out there. It's not always about being first. I know a lot of people want to be first, and it's first to put something out because then you get the first, amount of clicks and the first eyes. But if it's not right, if it's not good information, if it's not sourced information, then it doesn't matter about being first. And what I really love about this is, the amount of people that I'm going to meet between now and Sunday and the relationships that I'm going to make, the insiders that we'll be connected to now, truly, that no more BS is going to be allowed in Detroit. There won't be any more of this bull crap, clickbait stuff that people are just going to get away with. I made you guys a promise from the very beginning. Truth, honesty, and transparency in everything that we do. And once we got our opportunity to get credentials and get inside and get access and make some relationships, that we were going to start working very hard on that. And that's my goal going forward. So I just need your help. Share it, like it, subscribe to it, send it to a friend, get them to do the same. If you can tell one, and if one person can subscribe and they can tell another, and that person can subscribe, then we can start to be the talk of Detroit Lions football with accurate information that's honest, that's truthful, that gives you the right information. You want to be educated as a Lions fan. I get it. Look, we can have conversations all day, Eric, about what ifs and and that's okay too. Like there's a certain part of the season where you're going to have, should the Lions go out and sign this guy? Would this guy make sense in Detroit? And that's a lot different than I think. I heard from this guy that this guy's getting traded.
Well, that's coming really, really soon because you got March starts the free agency period next week. So anyway,
we got to get rolling.
On-field workout schedule. So today, the live drills will be broadcast on the NFL Network starting at 3 p.m. So today, Thursday, February 28th, it's going to be the defensive linemen. So that's big defensive linemen and edge, and then the linebackers. Tomorrow, you're going to get defensive backs and tight ends. So that's who we talked today was DBs and tight ends. We really didn't talk to the tight ends much, because the one we wanted to see didn't show up.
Oh, Emmanuel Warren, too. I don't know where the hell he was.
Yeah.
I don't know how I missed him today, but he was one that I wanted to get my claws in, and I didn't. And I don't know if anyone has reported yet if there was a formal meeting with him, and I'll ask again today if anybody knows, because I'm interested to know if the Lions have actually looked into this yet.
Heck yeah.
So...
But then Saturday, you're going to have the quarterbacks, wide receivers, and running backs. And Sunday, you'll have the offensive linemen. I can't wait to get to Sunday. Those are the guys I want to talk to. So we're going to talk to them on Saturday. We'll talk to the big boys. And Sunday, we'll get to see what they do on the field.
All right. We're going to do a competition for the rest of the week. You guys have social media. Start sharing it all on your social media. Start taking my social media and start reposting it. Not just Trace. We need more people to help.
Yes.
Push it, and then I'm gonna give somebody something from the combine. So we're gonna be going down to the combine right now, and I'm gonna go look in the pro shop, and I'm gonna find something that you will want. And so whoever shares it the most and can bring us the most subscribers, well, I'll have something for you. Okay. We got to head out of here because we got to get back and get in and get settled with a good seat. The rest of the work is just beginning.
Are we coming back tonight to be live?
Yeah, we probably will.
Right.
Just depends on what time we get done. We haven't even had a real meal in a while, so
we got to eat.
We got to have a real meal. By the way, NFL, thank you, doing a wonderful job bringing us food throughout the day. But
man, that sandwich today was bomb.
It was good, but it really hit my stomach. Like,
oh, did it?
Something powerful in it.
Oh, that was me the day before.
But not that way. It's just it really just didn't sit well.
Gotcha. I think it was great.
Anyway, good food, but thank them for supplying us with food around the clock. But I want a real meal.
Yeah. So just so you guys know, this is like what we get. This is the list of all the players. So this is a bunch of pages of players with their names, what school they went to, and what their DB number, like what the number on their shirt is. So if you see a lot of my posts on social media and stuff, you're going to see pictures of DB. Somebody asked me to put all the names underneath. I think it was Attila. I can't go back and put the names on 300 people's photos. So if you can get a list of all the DB's numbers, that would help you out a whole ton knowing who's who on my pictures that I post.
All right. Right now, we're expected to go see Mansour Delane running that 4.4 range. Ricardo Hallman, 4.38. So I'd like to know in the comments below, who do you think today is going to have the fastest 40 time of the day? Eric, I'm going with Damani Jackson. He looks like he's the one that should run in the sub 4.3s. And I've even heard your guy, it was Andre Fuller, right?
Yeah.
I'm hearing that he might run sub 4.4 today.
So who was that? The Jackson name that you said?
Who?
Damani Jackson. That was one of my guys. I got a great video with him, and I put he'd be a great fit for the Detroit Lions.
Well, we'll see.
So, if he runs really fast, you never know. Maybe we'll get him. Fourth round, third round.
Remember, these guys aren't running in straight lines, running in zigzags.
Well, you got to remember, too, we're looking at 319 prospects. And when we are in this room, there's 8 podiums, 4 other small table podiums, and then there's players doing interviews all over the place. And we cannot literally get to each. You just can't. So I would walk around, take a picture of each one, and then take 2 or 3 of them and try to get an interview with them. And you're in line with 30 or 40 or 50 other people trying to ask a question. So you only have 20 minutes per player per round, and it gets pretty interesting trying to get up front and get your question asked. So it's a lot of fun.
All right, y'all. You guys have a good rest of your day. We'll be back tonight. We'll do the final recap of the day. I'm going Damani Jackson to run the fastest time. We'll see what happens. You guys have a great day. We'll check you out later on. Adios.
Pressured by Hutchinson, he goes down.